Welcome to week 10 of the Summer Stitch Sampler Knit Along. We are working on a 2-color Thorn Stitch this week, and before we get started I did want to show you I'm using 2 different colors of Caron Simply Soft. I'm using off-white and lavender blue, and I've done this in 2 different ways. On the top, the one that I'm going to show you is the way the pattern is written, the instructions that we're going to follow. With this one you can see the lighter color, which is the off-white, makes the sort of flower petals, leaves and stem, right, in this pretty little pattern. But down here I did it the opposite way. So if you're choosing your own colors, this gives you an idea of what it would look like if you were using a darker color on those rows. So in this case, this is a start with the darker color and worked in the darker color. So color A, which is row 1, 4, 5, and 8, would be worked in the darker color. As it's written, we started with the lighter color and worked those rows with the lighter color. So again, if you're choosing your own, you kind of get an idea of what the contrast would look like one way versus the other and can better plan. I'm working a 24 stitch swatch for this project, just to show you guys what it'll look like. Oh, we got an airplane going by. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's get started. Okay, so at this point in the pattern, you will have already worked 2 setup rows. So those were your stockinette rows. You would have worked them in color A. So we're going to continue with color A. And I'm going to knit 6. This includes my edge stitches, which again we're doing so that we can pick up those stitches and create a border later. And it also creates a really interesting stripe pattern that isn't present in the whole pattern. So I'm going to knit 6. Okay, this is where it gets interesting. For the next stitch, I'm going to knit 1, yarn over, and knit 1, but all into the same stitch. So I'm going to knit 1, yarn over, and knit 1, all into the same stitch. Okay, so I've made 2 stitches, I've increased 2. And then I'm going to knit 3. Oops. And I'm going to continue across. As you can see, the purple stitches are the ones I'm doing the increases into. Knit 1, yarn over, knit 1. And it's going to be the same all the way across. That can kind of help to keep you on track. Okay, and once I get to the end here, I've got a couple extra knits. And I'm done with that row. Okay, so now I'm going to change colors. We're changing to color B. The color changes on this pattern always occur when you're starting on the wrong side. And I just carry mine up the work, except for the gap that I did down here. The carry just sort of hangs in there and doesn't cause a problem. Down here I went over several rows because I was changing colors, and that was too big, but because it was a swatch I didn't really care. But you shouldn't be able to notice it just climbing up a couple rows. It should look fine. Okay, so we're on our wrong side. We're changing to our color B, and once you do one color change, you'll just always know to change colors on this side because the yarn will be there ready to go. So I'm changing to my color B, which is lavender blue, and I'm going to start with 5 pearls. Oops. Sorry, I'm getting caught on. I got a lovely project bag. I'm at my last trip to the local yarn shop and I just got caught on it, so worst things that could happen, I guess. Okay, so I'm going to purl 5. And oops, not as expected. You know, in a lot of patterns, you'll do an increase in one row and then in the next row you'll decrease. We're not going to decrease on this row. We're going to save that for row 3. So all we're going to do is we're going to slip 3, and because we're working purlwise, I'm just going to slip them purlwise, keep it simple, right? And then we're going to purl 3. So all the way across, slip 3, purl 3. And the 3 we're slipping, you'll notice, are the ones that we didn't increase on last round. So those are our increased stitches. And again, that's just a way to keep track of where you are and make sure you didn't drop a stitch or pick up a stitch along the way, which we know can happen, especially when you're working across hundreds of stitches. I don't know if you guys heard that, but I think there's a crow saying hello. Okay, when we get to the end, it's all purls. Okay, so we're staying with this color because it's the yarn that we have. We're going to go to row 3. Okay, row 3 is where we start our decreases so that we get back to the same number that we had before. So in row 3, I'm going to start with knitting 5, and then we're going to begin our decreasing. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, so now we're going to begin the decreases of the pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to knit 2 together. Okay. We're going to slip 1. We're going to keep our yarn in the back. So we're going to slip 1 knitwise with our yarn in the back, and then we're going to do a slip, slip, knit. So that's what creates this little sort of flower, petal, not petal, leaf, basic parts of a flower. That's what creates the little leaf part of the pattern, okay? And then we're going to knit 1. So it's, again, oops, knit 2 together, slip 1, slip, slip, knit, knit 1. And you're going to do that all the way across. And again, the one that you are slipping is always going to be that middle stitch of, that middle stitch of the increase that you created. So you're always going to be slipping that one. So again, that's a way to keep track. And since you'll start to see the pattern emerge, you need that a little bit less this round, but it's always helpful to know. Sorry. Woo. Okay, and then when we get to the end, we're just going to knit the last 3. All right, and I'll show you. We are now on the wrong side, so we're changing colors again. And I'll show you how to do row 4. So rows 5, 6, 7, and 8 are the same stitches, the same stitches as rows 1, 2, 3, and 4. They are just offset so that they create this little pattern that goes in between the other stitches. So I'll take you through row 4. Okay, so we're switching colors because we are on the wrong side. And again, when you're working the Afghan, I've mentioned this, if you want to slip that first stitch of every row to give a neater edge for pickup when we do the border in week 13, you are welcome to do that. Okay, so 7 is what I'm purling. I'm purling 7. Okay, so I've purled my 7, and then I'm going to slip 1 with the yarn in the front and then purl 3. Ooh. 2, Okay, so my stitches here, because I slipped them the way I did, I'm picking them up on this side. If you're a combination knitter, you're used to reading stitches, but if you are not, you may not be used to reading them. I'm doing that just so it straightens it out on the other side. You can choose to slip it purlwise in the front. That may give you a little bit of a different twist, but I think it's easier just to pick it up with the right leg or the back leg, depending on how you're reading the stitch. Do this. I did work the first several rows picking up the stitches differently just to see what I liked about them versus didn't like about them. So that's the end of that one. Oops, I missed a slip because I was talking. Oh my goodness. So I can even see that I missed that slip because I was chatting, because it's supposed to be a slip and a 3. I just kept right on purling because I was chatting. I'll go back and fix that, but I will tell you that these down here, when I first started working them, I was slipping these stitches purlwise, and then I was slipping these knitwise. So there is a slight difference in the first 2 rows versus the second 2 rows. I don't know if you guys can see that. I did like the purlwise slipping, the way that it turned out a little bit better than the knitwise slipping. It just looked a little neater to me. So that's why I chose to do it that way. So it is up to you, however you choose to do it. The stitch will still come out pretty. It just may not be exactly as you expected. So let's see if I can freehand this. Guess there are worse places to have made a mistake and have to get back. Okay, great. So I'm just gonna go on back. Again, I'm just reorienting my stitches. Okay. So this one would have been a slip, and then back to purl. Nope. One more. Woo! Week 10, the week of difficulty. I'm just kidding. This isn't a very difficult stitch. Compared to the stuff you guys have already done, you are fine. So I'm going to slip this guy. Knit 3. Looks like my slipped white stitch is always in the center of my 3 as well. So that will help. And then when I get to the end, I'm going to purl 5. So I really did only miss that one. Okay, if you have questions, of course, come to our Facebook group and ask them. I'm in there fairly often, and I'm happy to answer your questions. Other knitters are also super helpful in there. I do love that we have this little community that talks about sometimes what a bear the stitch was, but sometimes how great it was or what made it easier for them. And I'm loving seeing all the different colors that people are using and the different interpretations of each week. And people are tweaking things just a little bit to make it theirs, and I think that that's perfect. But again, if you have questions, you can find me there. You can post them below. You can post them on the main pattern page for this, which is linked below as well. And we've only got 2 weeks left before the border. I can't believe it. We've been doing this all summer. Yeah, it's been a blast. So I'll look forward to seeing you all next week, and let me know if you have any questions. Take care.